Sometimes I like to say things like, I don't know how to start this episode, hoping that when you edit, that's how you'll start the episode. But I don't ever want to. I don't ever want
And
to say it.
sometimes I
I
do.
just want you to. Yeah, I know. I just want you to do it if it strikes your fancy.
Yeah. I try to have fun with the lead.
Does it strike your fancy? I don't think so.
It's whatever strikes your fancy.
Is it really strike your fancy?
Yeah.
I feel like there's some other verb that does something to your fancy, not strike.
I'm sure there is. Whatever floats your boat is, of course, one. Same general thing. So,
But what else floats your boat besides water? What else are they floating boats in besides water?
I mean, you could float a boat in any viscous liquid, I suppose.
You could, but nobody does.
Well, I wouldn't say nobody does. Nobody floats a passenger, cruiser in anything but water. But you could float a model boat in whatever you felt like.
Well, I was just going to say you're right, and I shouldn't speak in absolutes, but almost nobody floats any practical boat in anything other than water.
But almost isn't always.
That's correct. I usually am very good about not speaking in absolutes. But speaking of other idioms, I created Bytes today.
I saw, and I actually was quite surprised that I could take a break from trying to come up with anything, because I was really off my game on trying to prepare for this week just because of how busy today has been.
Well, I like these Bytes because I was listening to a different podcast, and I love this kind of thing, and it ultimately it's like somebody was saying they use the phrase get while the getting's good. And the way they use the phrase is the way I understood the phrase. And so I just wanted to ask you, how do you what's your interpretation of get while the getting's good?
So I like this because I didn't even click on links yet.
Yeah.
So my interpretation of it has always been to take whatever you have and exit while you still can before you lose something. So it's more get out while you have a good amount or situation, or however you want to phrase that part.
I think that's largely how it was meant originally, but I always heard the phrase, and I never necessarily heard it used in that context, and I never interpreted it that way. I interpreted it slightly differently. For me, I interpret it as get while the getting's good is like, okay, I'm going to like get as much as I can while I can. So it's like, what's the other phrase? Make hay while the day is long. Is that the phrase?
I think so. I've at least heard that phrase. And it makes sense. Like the more literal interpretation would be the way you take it.
Well, I think it's open to, it's like anytime, we've stated many times on this show that when something is put out in the world, it is open to interpretation. Just because your interpretation isn't the same as the original, as the creators, it doesn't mean that your interpretation is wrong. And I think that you can, get has two meanings, and both of those interpretations are correct. Neither are wrong. And so, but I just think it's interesting. I never realized that there was a different meaning to it.
I think part of it also stems from what you grow up around. And what I mean by that is if you were always around pet owners, like dog owners in the Southeast, you're going to hear get yelled often. And it's for, get away, go away, whatever. And so you immediately kind of have that in mind when you hear the phrase get while.
I didn't because I don't know. I didn't, but I was like, but I mean, I've heard get as in get out of here all the time, but I thought about it differently. Anyway, the other idiom was burning the candle at both ends. How do you interpret that?
That one I think is pretty straightforward. It's you're trying to do too much, where it's wearing at you from every possible and conceivable direction.
Okay, so I kind of interpret it that way, but how do you interpret where the candles, like, describe to me how you burn the candle at both ends? What does that look like to you? Like, not the literal description of, like, how would you literally burn a candle at both ends?
Well, there you would have to go back to more traditional taper candles that you would typically see for lighting, where you could at least melt the wax off of the bottom end of the candle and then light both and have it probably held instead of actually in any type of like physically constructed device that was meant to consume it.
Right.
Why you would burn it at both ends like a literal candle, I have no clue. I think it's just that it helps illustrate this idea of trying to do so much does this to you, and how do you illustrate that physically?
So that's exactly what I thought. You hold a candle horizontally and you light it on both ends, burning the candle at both ends. That's exactly how I pictured it. But and I thought, maybe because you get more light out of it, and so that depicts like, okay, you got more energy coming out, you've got more light, you can do more, but you're consuming at twice the rate, twice as bright, half as long. And that's how I always pictured it. But I think this phrase is so out of context for us, we didn't actually know what it really meant. And it meant burning the candle at both ends originally meant you light it at the first end of the day. So in the morning, you wake up, when it's dark, you light your candle. And then at the end of the day, when it's dark at night, you light your candle again. So that's burning the candle at both ends of the day.
That makes sense.
It does. I was just like, oh, this idiom is so out of context for us that we would have never thought about like, morning and night. So,
yeah, I mean, we haven't relied on candlelight for actual living purposes
for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So it just means like I got there and I was like, I wonder, did anyone ever think that you would light the candle on both sides, hold it horizontally and light either side? I bet nobody ever thought that when the idiom was created in the days where they used candles for light.
Oh, I'm sure not. Now that it's been explained in the original context.
Yeah,
like that's very much I've never had to rely on using candles to navigate the day. I've used them for decoration, or sure, maybe there's a short power outage where I use them for an hour or two,
or romance.
Yeah.
But most of the time, most of the time we light candles for, good smells.
Yeah. That's very much the only reason I light candles at this point. And I do love candles in general. I have no problems admitting that. I have far too many, but it's just specifically for the fragrance.
Yeah. Anyway, I was so amused by that. I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. So, anyway, those were my that was my first bite, and my second bite was about the game Wordle. Do you play Wordle?
I played it for a bit. I kind of got bored with it, but I understand the appeal. It's just I played it, and then I played some variants of it, and then it just got to be there were too many different things, and so I stopped playing all of them.
So it's not really, it's nothing new. It's just a variation of a lot of different things. This particular article that I read about it, your Wordle strategy says a lot about how you see the world.
I actually saw this article before, so I found it kind of funny that you included it, because I thought about including it earlier and then thought, well, maybe not. But I like the inclusion of it at this point.
Well, I like that. They in the article they described the game as a sort of mastermind. Do you remember the game Mastermind?
Vaguely, I would have compared it to Hangman personally.
Oh yeah, so interesting. I can see. Yeah, it is a lot like Hangman.
It's the same number of guesses if you do the traditional stick figure,
right? Ooh, interesting. They compared it to Mastermind. Mastermind was a game I played it when I was a kid. I hope my parents still have that really old school set of Mastermind. I loved it, but you put the colors in, and I think it was four pegs and four colors, and you could put in some colors, and then someone sets up one side, and then the second player guesses, and then there's these black and white pegs that let you know this is right, which ones are right, which ones are wrong, or which ones are in the order. Just like Wordle, it tells you, you might have you have this one correct in the correct spot, and this one correct but in the wrong spot or whatever. So similar thing. And so Wordle just does it with words, and it's fun. But I think the reason why it got so popular is because it hit at the right time, and it was just the right amount of like how you can share. And the sharing seemed kind of cryptic at the beginning until you play the game and just put it together. And I think they make really clever use of emojis, so everyone sees the same thing. Or when I say everyone sees the same thing, everyone sees what they expect to see based on which platform they're on, based on what your emoji looks like. So I thought that was cool, and it's very, it's easily recognized cross-platform. I like it because you can mess around, because it's just text and emojis. You can like mess around. So like one day I put in like extra squares, and I was like, yeah, I got it in 10 guesses. And people were like, how did you get it in 10 guesses? I was like, because I'm special. Because you can just easily edit it, and because it's all text and emojis. And so anyway, I digress. This article was about just taking talking about how you can take the different strategies in trying to play the game. So like one strategy might be that you try to get a correct guess every time, or another strategy is that you might guess the wrong word just to get more letters in. So I thought it was a cool article.
It was. So how do you typically approach it?
Most of the time, I want to get as few guesses as possible, and I try to like guess the words. But if I have a bad guess I'll use excuse me. I'll use a word that I've taken the Wheel of Fortune approach, the final round of Wheel of Fortune approach. So I try to guess words with R, S, T, L, and E as soon as possible, and get the vowels out as soon as possible. So sometimes, at one point I was having fun. I mean, like I would try boner or penis as my first guess word, because they have like two, both of those words have two different vowels, and there's an N and an R, or a N and an S. And so very common letters. And then I think lately I've been using the word raise because it has three vowels and an R and an S. And so I try to get those in as soon as possible. If I get a good hit on the letters, I'll try to guess the word. But if I don't get a good set of letters in the beginning, I will guess something that I know is absolutely wrong just to get more letters in to hopefully get some hits.
So you don't play on hard mode, is basically what you're saying.
It just depends on how the first one goes, or maybe the first or second guess. I will start out playing on hard, so I don't have hard mode toggled, but I will start out playing on hard mode, unless and I might bail on the third guess or fourth guess, just so that I can at least get it by the sixth guess. I do put in that I put the asterisk in as if I was on hard mode if I did play the game in hard mode, because you can edit your Wordle results.
Yeah. So when I do think to play it, this is not something that I play daily, and just because I say I quit playing doesn't mean that I don't occasionally still pull it up and play one, because the beauty of it is that it's a very quick single play game once every 24 hours. So it's not like you can sit there and really waste the day on it unless you really take your time in between guesses and et cetera, et cetera. So occasionally I'll still think, all right, well, I'll do it today. I never typically start with the same word. I do start with a variation of the same concept, which is I want to try to get R, S, T, E, and A in there in a very quick time frame just to kind of see what's present. And then I want to try to get P, L, and O in there in the next guess or so if I can. But I do have hard mode toggled, and I refuse to untoggle it because I feel like if I get a letter, I want to be forced to use that letter, and that makes me have to come up with a different strategy to incorporate some of the other letters that I might want to use by either thinking of obscure words that work or, exercising my vocabulary in general.
So, what are your stats look like? Is like when do you normally get the correct word?
My highest distribution is on the fourth guess. My next highest is on the third guess, and then it's kind of what you would expect from there, where 5 and 6 are higher than 2, but most of the time, if I don't get it in that third or fourth guess, I'm probably not going to get it.
This is something I found. This is pretty cool. I've got 2 on the first guess.
See, I would actually have to do today's and see if it still has my old stats. Actually, yeah, no, it doesn't have my distribution at all anymore because it's been a little while since I played. Like, I can't even click on the little stats number and get any streak or anything else.
I'm so annoyed because my highest is on the 5th. My highest distribution is on the 5th guess, and followed by 4th, 3rd, and 6th, and then 2nd. So
maybe I'll actually think to at least do the puzzle daily for I don't know, a month or so, and then follow up with my average distribution.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it was, but it's not like I screenshotted it or anything, so I have no proof.
I believe you. And the thing is, it's like you could fake it anyway.
True.
I mean,
and unless something has changed, my understanding is the word list is viewable as plain text if you view the source URL and from info and everything anyway. So
yeah, you can make whatever distribution you want.
Yep. So I thought, or I guess, is there anything else on Wordle before I pivot and
no
lead us in?
I honestly don't think that I think the article was misleading because it doesn't really tell you what your strategy about the world is, or based on your strategy, I don't really think the article described, hey, this is what your worldview looks like.
It doesn't. It's left to interpret a lot, but it. Yeah. So the premise of the article is sound. There's just no exploration of the premise of the article.
Yeah, I think I'm used to horoscopes a little more than that, so.
So I thought this week might be a fun pivot to circle back to we've had a couple of different conversations about general side activities and inner workings and how they could cross over and everything else. And I am behind the scenes actively working on my additional project that I know I've alluded to at least once, I think maybe in an after show. I don't know that it's made it into the main show.
Yeah, I wonder about that every once in a while. Is this the project that you're using your computer for? Is this your
no.
This is not your Xcode project?
No. So this is the YouTube channel with I say YouTube channel. YouTube will probably be my primary distribution mechanism. I don't know if it'll be the primary branding landing point. That's to be determined. Probably, just because I'm kind of lazy. But also because, like, why, if my primary distribution system is going to be via YouTube anyway, why try to build up something around it that's not YouTube? But I started thinking more about the different projects that are in play. If you think about this show being a project and you having Project Vigor being, I'm going to say active, even though it's somewhat irregular in scheduling.
It's active but irregular, and it's just, yeah.
Right. And so this other venture that I mentioned actually ties into that, because I remember talking to you about this sparking an idea for me doing more that would tie in with Project Vigor more so than the show, but I'm starting to think that there's a nice way to tie in all of them.
Oh.
And part of that is not limiting focus on what the content delivery mechanism allows. So with Project Vigor, you're specifically focused on climbing and health, right? That's a good way to summarize it. With the show, we're not constrained to any topics, but there's nothing that says we can't bring in something from the individual projects. So there's a fairly obvious tie-in here where maybe you want some behind-the-scenes thoughts or additional things about something you've seen.
That would be cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that led me to thinking a little bit further. So I'm not officially ready to announce the name of the other project that I'm referencing. So we're going to call it Project To Be Named, even though it has a name.
Can we call it, if it's not already Project X, can we call it Project X? And if it is Project X, you can just cut this part out. It is at 2936. I'll put that in the notes.
No, we can call it Project X. It has a name. I have a registered domain. Somebody wants to actually go do the investigative work, they could find it. But I have had this domain for a long time and just decided I would reuse it because I like it.
Oh, you told me this domain name.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I have a good friend of mine that I went to school with, actually, back high school, middle school, that's a phenomenal artist. And I reached out to him last week, I think, and said, hey, I do not need this anytime soon, but I'd like to get your thoughts on some branding for this particular idea. And so that's a current tangent that is running. And then separately, I'm writing some outlines for what I think I want to incorporate. And I realized I don't think any of my outlines are going to be used. I think I have a completely different idea for how to take it that makes more sense. And that's what I wanted to bring to the table for discussion, because I do better with this part of figuring out endeavors by talking about it, even if it's just me talking and answering myself.
Right. Well, I mean, there is a huge benefit to, if you think about it, you can work through things, but there's additional benefit to saying it out loud, especially to somebody, even if that somebody doesn't ever give you any feedback. Just saying it out loud to a different person and having them hear it, or saying it out, that makes a big difference. Yes, it's a good idea.
And on top of that, I feel like this is a way to hold me accountable as well, because I'm going on public record as saying this is something I intend to launch later this year.
Gotcha.
So that puts me
accountability.
On a timetable.
Yeah.
So Project X is what we'll call it. And my original thought for it was actually driven from your conversations about Project Vigor, where I actually asked you if it would bother you if I started a channel that was very similar, just because I thought it would be interesting. Mm-hmm. But I realized I don't know that that's necessarily my focus. Like that will be part of it. There will certainly be plenty of times where there'll be crossovers for us both climbing once my ankle feels
sturdy.
Once I trust my ankle, yeah. Which we're really close, so we'll sidebar that for later. Mm-hmm. But then I realized, what is my focus if that's not it? And I think over the past few years, I've developed pretty solid interests in two categories. One is the betterment of self, whether that means it being emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever, but betterment of self. And the other is very much focused on the physical betterment of state, I think is a good way to put it. Because I have explored so many different activities and ways to do things. Like it's not a specific activity that I'm wanting to necessarily focus on, but more the act of taking that step daily. And so I have overall ideas where that can go, and I see a decent amount of overlap both with the show and with your project. And it made me want to just kind of explore this conversationally and see what might make sense and whether or not you wanted to expand anything beyond just climbing or climbing as a method to improve fitness, or if you wanted to keep that very narrowly focused and have any additional exploration maybe be a crossover on either the show or my upcoming project.
So so climbing isn't going to give me the fitness that climbing alone isn't going to get me to the fitness level that I want. It's just not enough. Maybe it would be enough if I could devote a lot more of my day and days to it, but I'm 40. I've got children. I've got a career. I can't. It's something that I love. It's something that I have wanted. I think I've said this many times. I've wanted to do it my whole adult life, and I've finally done something about that, and I'm doing it. Even though I'm pretty, I can't do very many advanced things, but I still love it, and I want to do it. But it is a motivation to do the other things that I should be doing for myself anyway, just to be a healthy adult. And so I think the thing that would, so like right now, I hit a strength to, I feel like I'm hitting a wall with strength to weight ratio. And the best thing I can do to improve that is lifting weights. But I also need to focus on cardio as well. And so those are the two things. And I have been going to the gym and lifting. Last week was a bust because I had a cold, and I think I had some interruptions, work-related interruptions. But I think that's more or less, I'll be able to pivot around that. So at least the work interruptions, I have a plan to not allow those to affect me so much. But the weightlifting, and then on top of that, adjusting diet just a little bit. I don't want to adjust the diet that much. I do want a little bit, but not, just a matter of like, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I have always been very adamant that I don't mind making short-term changes to my diet for a goal, but I refuse to diet or change my lifestyle because I like food. Right.
Well, see, there's no real diet that makes you lose weight. The thing that allows, there's two ways of tackling it. Or there's one thing that causes weight loss, and that is calorie deficit. That's it. Now, you can increase the amount of calories that you burn, or you can decrease the amount of calories that you eat. I have found like the most effective thing for me is weightlifting, because it increases the amount of calories you burn so much, and I put on muscle really easy. So I end up burning a lot of calories that way, and the thing about it is it's like it's not the actual workout that does most of the calorie burning. I think you only like on a typical workout, weightlifting workout that I will start with, I'll only burn a few hundred calories lifting weights. It's the several hundred, the hundreds of more calories that are burnt by rebuilding muscle tissue and maintaining increased muscle mass. That's where the calorie burning comes from. So I end up burning more calories in my sleep than I do in my actual workout. But that's the route I have taken, and that's the one I plan to take right now. But what I want to add here that I hadn't been doing in quite some time is actually doing more weight-bearing cardio, because I just at the age that I am, I think that I should really not neglect my cardiovascular fitness.
Define what you mean by weight-bearing cardio. Like I'm pretty sure I know what you mean, but let's just make sure it's clear.
Yeah. So like a weight bearing cardio is going to tear down your muscles a bit more. Like when you run, that's not really weight bearing. It's a good. I'm not sure I know. Like I've had it explained to me, but I'm not sure I could re-articulate it. But I can give examples of weight bearing cardio, maybe to explain it.
Yeah, that's fine. Because like the way I typically look at cardio is more high impact versus low impact, not anything around weight bearing. But when I think of like increased weight with cardio, I think of like ankle and wrist weights for a walk or something of that nature.
So I feel good examples of like non-weight bearing cardio would be like running and cycling. There's no weight resistance to that. You're just getting your heart rate up. Whereas swimming and running stairs or using a stair machine, that's weight resistant, weight bearing cardio, because it's still getting
that makes sense.
Getting your cardio weight up, but there's also a weight resistance aspect to the type of cardio that you're doing.
So what I have found to be best for me is as long as I track what I consume as far as calories go, I can make better decisions. And I'm not changing what I'm eating. I'm just recognizing that if I don't track it, I have a bad habit of just walking over and grabbing a snack because I'm bored, not because I actually want a snack. And it's very easy to then add 300, 400, 500 calories like it's nothing. And so tracking it means I can at least look at what I've consumed, what I plan to consume if I have that in there, and say, yeah, I'm not actually hungry. What am I coming in here for?
Mm-hmm.
And make a better decision. And then 2, I have focused more on cardio than I would have ever done previously, but I made sure it was low impact because I don't like running. I never have. I don't want to. I can't stand it. I will run if I have to, but I really try to avoid it. And so I finally found cardio that works for me, and that's rowing. I actually enjoy it. I most of the time row uninterrupted.
That would be a weight resistance cardio.
Yeah, as you described it, I realized that it would fall in that category.
The reason I focus about 7 years ago, six and a half years ago, I had a conversation with a friend of mine. He's a PhD scientist in I don't know what, like the last time I was working with him, he was doing studies on traumatic brain injuries, but prior to that, like I think he did his dissertation on muscle, different sort of things in the muscles, and he's a really fit dude. He grew up in New Zealand and played rugby, and it would have been the level of rugby that he played. It's not. I don't think there's anything I would compare it to like the level, like it's the most popular sport in New Zealand, so I'd compare it to American football. But it was something at a higher level than NCAA, but a lower level than professional. So I don't know where it fits in, but that's what I understood to be the level that he played in. And because
so maybe a better comparison would be like championship football, era versus Premier League.
Right. Because there was definitely a professional league that plays there above whatever league that he was in, and I think he was quite good. I watched him play in some local leagues in New York and tried to play along too. I was not good. That's a demanding sport, but anyway, he he explained the science to me and talked about the different at an age like past your mid 30s, he's like all of your cardio should be weight bearing because your muscles are like one of the most important parts of your body that will one of the most important parts of your body that will help you maintain a specific weight and shape and so forth. And he said, like, once you get into your mid-30s, even non-weight bearing cardio, your body will begin to burn muscle mass for energy, and it won't always burn fat mass. Whereas when you're younger, it will primarily burn fat mass. So he stressed the importance of weight-bearing cardio past your mid-30s. And so that's something I focused on, or kept in mind, and so forth. So
yeah, I never would have thought that I would like rowing, because it seems like the kind of thing that I would not like because it's cardio.
Yeah.
But I'm not so sure that I like it as much as I tolerate it and don't mind the experience, because I can put something up on a display and play and somewhat distract myself.
Yeah.
It's more, I don't like treadmills because I don't like running. Like, I really despise running. But rowing feels at least a bit more rhythmic and something that I can, even on my worst days where I'm just not feeling it, I can say, you know what, I'm just going to get on and give it, 50% or something. And then 10 minutes in, it's like, no, I'm trying to beat my personal best. But not to focus so much on routine.
Yeah, we veered very far away.
Well, not that far, because these are some of the things that I was thinking might be beneficial when you think about what kind of audience am I actually going to reach. I'm going to reach over 40 people who have either made a decision to focus on health in general, or are looking for inspiration to focus on health, or are looking for how to be a better person in some fashion. Like, those are really my three key domain areas, and two of them are very much focused on health and fitness.
Well, there's a thing about when you start getting one part of your life together, it usually spills over into other parts of your life. And I've seen people talk about it, like when people get like really committed to cleaning up their finances, they end up getting really committed to eating healthy. Like that usually ends up being a byproduct, and getting fitter. Like, all of those things end up, that not always, but many times that's not an unusual, or that's a common dynamic.
I can see that, because if you abstract it a little bit, even from my journey over the past couple of years, like I didn't enter this phase saying I want to be fit, or I had a very specific physical goal. It's COVID is a thing, and I want to give myself the best possible negative outcome by at least being healthy as an adult instead of unhealthy like I am now.
Right. I mean,
and it transformed from that into, because of how competitive I am by nature, it transformed from that into, now I want to be a better version of me than I was yesterday. And then it has subsequently transformed into, now I want to be the best version of me that I can be, regardless of what I'm comparing to.
It just keeps it evolving into more and more like different levels of the same. It's kind of different levels of the same, or refined levels of the same intent from the very beginning.
It is. It's just now there's not as much a focus on external potential threats or risks. It's now, all right, I've got what I need from that perspective. Now it's just, I want to be better than I was yesterday.
Yeah, you've made a lifestyle change.
Yes. And I think trying to encapsulate this concept of a lifestyle change for others to consume by making it entertaining and tying into the randomness that can exist when you want to just pick and choose different things to try and see where you go. I feel like that's a fun dynamic. And I feel like it allows both interactions with the show that are unique. Like, if you don't care at all about the channels, you could listen to the show and have that experience with some teasers of things that maybe you don't see, but you don't really care. And then if you follow like your project or my project and want to know more about the rationale behind it, you could easily pivot to any number of episodes on the show where we talk about things without it having to be a compendium. And I like that. I like the lack of dependency, but increased enjoyment of the entire experience if you actually follow all three.
Yeah, I think that's really cool because like I like that a lot. There are folks that I follow on YouTube, and I started following them on Instagram just to see what their Instagram. Some people do it well, some people don't, but it's just like I kind of want to see like a different side of this, and sometimes it's like, oh, I'm using Instagram to promote my YouTube channel, or but it's just I like the idea of like you can consume if you're interested in at all in what we're doing. There are various mediums where you can consume the part that you like or are interested in.
Yeah, and I like making sure that each of the individual components stand on their own. I don't want to feel like you have to do more than whichever one actually attracts your interest.
Right, and it's I feel like this is the kind of thing where you want to avoid. Well, I don't want to like use Instagram just to promote the YouTube channel. I'm just going to show like the content here that fits the Instagram will go on Instagram. And then if you're more interested in what you just see in this one particular avenue, here are these other places where you can get more or different,
Yes. Like each of them should enrich the experience of the other, not
but they're all
be dependent upon them.
They're all sort of standalone.
And so, and this is why, like I alluded to in our notes, that I'm way ahead of myself with this particular conversation because I don't even have, content being posted. You're multiple steps ahead of me, at least in that regard.
I'm still filling it out, though.
And we're taking two different approaches to that, right? Like,
yes.
For me, it's I want to establish an identity that I start with that makes this different from what I have established here already. And I didn't want to start putting anything together until I figured out the identity for this other piece, because I don't want to muddy the waters. I have enough of a presence across multiple networks and everything else that I wanted to make sure whatever I did from the get-go, from day one, had its own appearance and associated branding so that it wouldn't be confused with the website for any general purposes or this show. Like I wanted to make sure it stood on its own. And I think the only reason we have different approaches is because I have this established place and some established branding for a portion of what I do versus the show, which has now established branding as well. And I want to make sure I don't introduce something that muddies that when I want to make sure all of them stay separate, but yet, feed off of and enrich each other.
Yeah. I follow that, and it feels like it fits your personality quite well.
I'm hoping so. Well, I guess why I'm saying that. So the other Project X, if you will.
Yes.
The way it is being developed from a branding perspective is how to basically brand me with this other name, because that's really what it is. It's very much this is about me, but I can't use just JT Hart because I've used that from a professional branding experience, right?
Yeah,
so
this is going to be something. This is not a professional version of you,
right? This is very much me and what my general philosophy and outlook represent, And I feel like because of the friend of mine that I have doing the artwork, has very similar thoughts and feelings and everything else that I do, and tastes in general, that I am hoping that we get to something that really encapsulates that, but I can play with it as it's not Jesse Hart, it's whatever this pseudonym or other name will
It's Project X.
evoke. Yes. And have fun with it. And eventually have people come to know me as that because of how well that is done. And then realize, oh, it's just him. And you don't have to know me by that name afterward. I want that name to be synonymous.
I get that. Did you get the Twitter and Instagram accounts?
I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did. I don't remember what all I've registered at this point. And a lot of it, I'm probably going to feed just into my primary accounts when it starts coming to ancillary projects. And sure, it doesn't have a presence on Twitter. Like, that can be via me because it is still me.
Yeah.
Just because there's a certain point where I feel like there's too many. Like, I do know for Instagram, I have an account set up for it. I have an email address set up for it. I have the domain that I registered ages ago. Like, plenty of things from that perspective. But I have two other pieces of that where, like, I have other domains that are also registered that I'm considering resurrecting as a part of it. Not specifically for that project, but more as a way to say, if it's a project that incorporates that one and the show and me professionally and like your project, let's put that under this one placeholder so that it's easily located, but it feeds or references all four of the other ones as an example. So I have a couple of things that are, it almost sounds like I'm talking about shell companies, except there's no finances involved. Like, that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's an entity that is specific for, if I do a video production and it incorporates more than just one entity, I use this other entity and reference the ones that it incorporates. And if it's a personal thing that incorporates this entity and another one, then I use this other one and reference the others below it. So I have like two abstraction layers, one for kind of a professional focus and one for a personal focus, in addition to this one, but those are only placeholders for, hey, more than one of my projects is involved, and I want to keep it in the appropriate, like, direct you to one spot thing.
Okay.
And that illustrates a whole level of complexity of thought that I put into it that I did not intend to explain behind the scenes, and I don't think can be understood from what I described anyway. Like, I think that requires a diagram. But the point being, like, I've really thought about this other project.
I feel like this is a good place for a Venn diagram.
It would be more complex than just a Venn diagram.
Okay. I love
it's actually a flow chart.
Okay.
Because I actually created a mind map and then overlapped a bunch of stuff to try to figure out exactly how many entities I would need to be able to do what I want to do. Yeah, I overthought it quite a bit. But I already own domains for all of these things. So it's like, well, I've been paying for this name for years, and it just redirects to jthart.com. So
the getting's good in my way, my interpretation.
But I do want to incorporate your side project more than just being a side project. That's kind of the big conversation piece. And I don't really know what that looks like because we haven't really talked about the collaboration aspect other than in the, shared experience of climbing.
Right.
And we certainly haven't talked about wrapping it into a conglomerate of the show as a tie-in for all of these different things. Because that didn't really hit me until not too long ago.
I had a little Easter egg on one of my as we record the show, the last reel that I posted in Project Vigor. It's one where I was trying to climb this V1 route, and I kept getting the beta wrong, and I couldn't finish it. And so the song that I used was a song by the band Morphine called All Wrong. And the section that I use, all you hear, the lyrics, all wrong, all wrong.
It's a fun use of music. So I actually haven't listened to, or haven't paid attention to the music that you've put with videos. Like I keep my phone on, muted, silent, etc. Like I scroll. If I happen to see one, I'll stop and watch it, but I don't typically think to turn up the audio. I never would have noticed that.
It's the first time that I've used music to like actually have meaning with it. So every other time it's just like I picked a song that I wanted to put with the climbing.
It is the kind of thing that would make me tend to pay attention, and if I saw it, turn the volume up a little bit and actually see if there's any meaning that I would discern or not, though.
Yeah, I feel like there's probably something the next time I do something where the song has any sort of meaning or relation to the video, I'll put something in there to indicate that, something in addition to what I've sort of come up with a format of how how I have the video. Like I have the video, and then there's like a little bit of text on there, and then I'll probably I don't usually post any text to go with it, but I'll probably have like additional text that'll just allude to the fact that there might be something related to the song. The song has something to do with it. If there's no additional text, there's nothing with the song. But I'll do that going forward.
So I know this, like in general, the discussion for this evening probably warrants an actual offline, in-person, like multiple hour just set of sessions to figure out what it might actually look like.
Brainstorming.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly part of it. But pulling all of that back, I have a general, just logistical question that I have observed and am curious about the decision. Like, so far, everything that I've seen has been posted to Instagram instead of being either longer form or supplemented on a YouTube channel. Just curious if that's still trying to kind of figure out things and it's very short content, and so you haven't gone the route of doing something larger, or is it that you think that Instagram fits the content best, or just the rationale behind it? I'm curious about.
So far, it's totally me being lazy and not committing to anything yet.
That's fair. That's perfectly fair.
Yeah, it's super easy to get. I feel like for the least amount of effort and the most amount of attention, Instagram Reels is what I'm getting. I've actually posted some of them to TikTok, or taken the same video and edited it just slightly differently on TikTok, because TikTok has a different set of music that you can apply to. But I think I only did that with one or two videos, and just to try it out. But that's especially with the beginning of this year, and just some job role changes, I have been working for the past 3 months to get settled in that arena or in that part of my life, and so that's why.
Yeah, the only reason I even thought it was an interesting point to ask about is because I feel like part of it is also a workflow thing.
Yeah, the workflow is really easy. It's not the best place to edit video, but to put out what I'm trying to put out right now, it's pretty easy.
And the main reason I kind of thought of that being a side piece is I know my personal workflow would be, even if I'm using the phone as my primary camera, even though I have other alternatives, I'm not going to do any kind of editing on the phone. I can't do it. I'm going to pull it into Final Cut Pro, and at that point, I'm not going to think of Instagram as an outlet.
Right. If I was doing something on YouTube, I have the exact same sentiment as you. I want to put it in Final Cut Pro and actually put together a proper video. So,
well, I was just thinking, even if I didn't really do much but cut up some, snippets to put to music, or even if I did very, very minimal editing, is what I'm getting at. Like, I just know my workflow because of my general history with any type of video or photo media. I'm not going to do it from the phone. I'm going to pull it into the computer, and because I want to see it. I want to see if there's something that I want to make a change to on a larger screen. And even if the only thing I do is add music to it, I know it's going to be something that I at least look at in Final Cut Pro before I publish.
So it's an interesting. I don't know that I would have thought about saying this, but now that you said about music a few times. So what's interesting is if I were to put music to this in Final Cut Pro, it's going to get flagged for copyright infringement. But if you choose the music in on Instagram or TikTok, I really think TikTok paved the way for this. But if you choose to put the music in through their app, because I think whatever license they have with it, they can kill the sound, and it kills the sound in your video. So they can, they lose the rights to a particular song. Well, all the videos that have that song are now, muted or immediate videos without sound. So, but I'm willing to make that trade-off because this is pretty low effort postings. But it allows me to put in music that would otherwise I wouldn't have access to because of copyright laws, and so that's been a strong motivator for using the in-app editors. There's some. There's some.
So I have a couple of places that I would go to for either royalty-free or royalty or attribution, like free to use with attribution licenses.
Right.
And I would be using that type of music instead.
Yeah.
But that's very much because that's what I'm accustomed to from, years ago when I certainly wasn't a big enough shop to even entertain the thought of asking an artist to use their music.
Right. So, it's interesting. So I've always wondered, if somebody, let's say an artist covers a song, and you ask them, hey, can I use your cover of this song? Is it a copyright infringement? I have wondered about that. I've never explored that, but.
So no, the only person that you need approval from is the person performing the song. It is assumed that if a person covers a song, they have either changed enough about it or it's clearly and obviously a cover.
Right. So if you there's a great video of this woman singing Santeria in a very sort of soulful, slow way, which is it's very different than how the Sublime originally released it, in maybe any other version that they live version or otherwise have released. So it's very obviously not Sublime. And so and I'm assuming that she probably doesn't even have a copyright, and you could actually just I think it would be bad form, but you could just go and get the audio from YouTube and use it. But I wasn't sure what the copyright laws were for covers.
Well, you're actually not as worried about copyright law in that particular instance. You're worried about whether or not you have permission of the performer to use their performance. And I know we murky the water with that being copyright law. Technically, I think it falls under some copyright jurisdiction, but you're not actually worried about
I'm not worried about who owns Sublime's rights. Yeah.
Right, because you're not using their performance, you're not using their music and republishing it, you're using another person's performance of their music, and so the other person is the only person you have to worry about.
Yeah. That would definitely be a route that I would go, because I think people have been more than people who have put their music out on YouTube, I think are more than willing to be like, hey, yeah, just give me credit for it. And I'm like, of course. Like, the whole point is like, let's you're a good artist who did a cover of this song and it sounds great. Let me spread the word.
So one of the things that I'm hoping to get to, and this is not a definite option, but my brother is a pretty good guitarist. I know I've mentioned before.
Yeah.
He has recorded a couple of things personally that he has talked about wanting to make videos for. We haven't really taken that anywhere, but I'm thinking I might see if I can get him to do some custom music as well.
That would be cool.
And I think it would be fun for him just as much as it would be fun for me, and so it's a win-win, but who knows? I don't know if that will materialize. I feel like this is the perfect outlet for that collaboration, though, if it were to happen.
That sounds cool.
And who knows? That might even lead to custom music for the show instead of the royalty-free edit.
Yeah. Is that how we end the show?
Yeah, I think so. Like,
okay.
I don't have anything else snarky to add. I feel like that's pretty much I have a lot of ideas. I think it's overly ambitious, and I feel like, what the hell? Let's do it.
We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.